My name is Onyeka Nwelue. This is the Onyeka Nwelue Show. In 2008, a completely different novel was published by Kachifo Limited. It was written by Eghosa Imasuen. In 2011, he published another very differently written novel, Fine Boys, and that is what we're about to talk about today. But first, this is to St. Patrick. Now, the author who is in the studio with me would love to tell us about the inspiration behind Fine Boys.
and we promised we wouldn't talk about inspirations, didn't we?
Well, we need to talk about Fine Boys, which is a very interesting title.
Yes.
Knowing that we have a group of people who are addressed as Fine Boys.
Yes, now me and you. So, thank you for having me, Onyeka.
You're welcome.
And this is a lovely, lovely, lovely idea and a lovely space.
Thank you very much.
Inspirations. Before backstage when we were coming in and when we were preparing ourselves, I was always worried about this inspiration thing. And the idea is that most authors will end up confabulating stories about what inspired them. For me, it wasn't so much as I had a deadline and I had to just tell a story. And what better way to get the stories from than my life? So Fine Boys is more of lived experience in and around. The title takes its name from the names that the confraternities in Nigerian universities call themselves. And that's basically where the novel finds its life and where the novel finds its drama. But it's also about what I like to call the IMF children, the children of the International Monetary Fund. This was in the 80s when there were the conditionalities, when the old theory was that austerity helped economies recover from recession. And we were the big lab where that theory was debunked. And now the new theory is spend yourself out of recession. So if you watch people of my generation, writers born in the 70s, we seem to be preoccupied with if you listen to, for example, Miss Adichie's TED Talk, the famous TED Talk, where there's this sequence where she talks about how Kellogg's was replaced by Nasco cornflakes, how custard was replaced by Akamu, and you have those ideas of import substitution, things changing and growing through that, and the military regime. Then, of course, coming of age and violence. So Fine Boys was inspired by, one, a deadline, and the need to tell a story that was lived experience.
I have a very, I think I have a favorite part of the book. It's actually the beginning. And I would like to read that to you.
Please.
I remember something my father told me after I went with him on a visit to one Oyibo oil executive. I was 13, in class 3. I wore my federal government college Warri, white on white, and had been impressed by the white man's office. He was Canadian, I think, and he had a pot belly that jiggled every time he laughed. The office had smelled of air-conditioned big men, like chocolate and tobacco, like cheap cigars. Not cigarettes, cheap big cigars that go out on their own if you do not puff on them. I told my father when we had left that the Oyibo man's office smelled of money. Daddy had already put the 505 in reverse. He stopped the car, shifted to neutral, and looked at me. Ewa, I don't know how it's pronounced. Money doesn't smell like that. Money fucking smells like smelling fucking armpits, balls and shit. You understand? Armpits, balls and shit. The rest is all fucking show. Now, my interest is,
yes?
How many fathers speak that way?
Mine did.
For real?
Mine does. He's still alive. He still speaks that way. You have to understand that. So the character that is Erwine's father.
So is this book about you?
No, I deny it. The character. Did the camera catch it? the character that is Erwine's father is. You have to understand that Warri, which is where half of the story is based, in the early 80s and late 70s was boomtown.
Okay.
Just after the war, the refinery was being built by the Italian contractor San Poggetti. The port was being upgraded by Berger.
Okay.
The steel company was being built. The steel mill and the steel company was being built, the Delta Steel Company. So there were a lot of young people pouring in. young engineers, young technicians, support staff, doctors and everything. And we were born out of that stew of people. So I had friends who were Fulani, I had friends who were from Benue, I had friends who were from Gongola, that's present-day Adamawa and Yobe, Adamawa and Taraba. We had friends from all over the country. And most of them were trained overseas. They had the vocabulary of somebody who went to university in the UK in the 60s. There were a lot of F-bombs and a lot of explicits. It was something that we just heard. So if you were in...
You weren't shocked by the way these fathers...
If you grew up with it, you didn't know it was odd. So there were a lot of F-bombs. It was just part of the way people talked. And exactly those issues, I think the first major reading I did in Lagos when the print edition came out, and people had already bought it. You know, normally you have a first reading where nobody knows what the book is about and they come. Mm-hmm. And you have a second reading, which is like the major one, where readers have already engaged the book and have formed opinions. And it was the first question that I got asked. That was unrealistic for a Nigerian father. And for me, the example I gave was, my father is not Nigerian.
Did you try to get him to come on one of the...
No, my father hasn't read the book. My family members haven't read the book. Nobody in my family has read the book.
Your wife?
Nope.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Since 2011?
Since 2008 when it was finished. It was finished like 3 years before.
You used their computer to write?
I used my father's... the first draft was written on a Windows 98 Office 2002 desktop that didn't have a UPS. It didn't have an uninterrupted power supply. So NEPA was my editor. So anytime the electricity was cut out, I had lost maybe 10 minutes of work.
You were frustrated?
Not really. There was auto save. I had to drop the auto save to 3 minutes. So that was it. And each time when I was writing, I kind of learned it. So when you enter for the next paragraph, and you enter space for the next line, after a couple of paragraphs, Control S, then keep on writing. So it was almost like a thinking, like an interjection. You know, there's a certain habit you learn. Either you lean back. So my leaning back was Control S.
I haven't seen any of these books on any of the literary prizes list. Why?
Because they weren't good?
Because they're not good?
No, I think they're great. I wrote them.
Did you try to enter them for the prize?
Yes, of course.
So
I think to St. Patrick...
Nobody likes you?
No, for to St. Patrick, I think they were entered for Anna prizes. This was in 2007, 2008. And I think there was this rule that if you were not a member of Anna, you couldn't enter for the Association of Nigerian Authors prizes. And we didn't know. So Kachivo was also learning at the time.
So did you try to register as a member?
No. There was no branch in Benin or Warri at the time. Then
what about Fine Boys?
Fine Boys was entered for the NLNG but didn't get shortlisted, didn't get longlisted or shortlisted.
Why do you think that happened?
I don't know. I've
never
really known.
You didn't play the internal politics?
It wasn't internal politics. At times we ascribe motivation to things that most likely are, and this is going to be controversial, due to just crass ineptitude. You know, so you remember when this NLNG prize was about giving only Nigerian only authors who were living in Nigeria the prize, and everybody was like, but that is ridiculous because the world has become this global village, and if somebody, and why would you exclude anybody who said they were Nigerian from being Nigerian by certain rules of, let's say, domiciliation? It wasn't one of those ridiculous things. So different personalities, some people look at it and say, no, because they are planning to do this. I look at it and say, oh no, they just need to learn more. And as usual, the prize learned and said, expand it.
But do you have a cordial relationship?
And at the time, Fine Boys was entered for the prize. And even till now, I remember I had this argument with one of the administrators. And they said that the way the book was put together was important because they didn't want to bring any shoddily published book. I said, but if you are advocating for Nigerian fiction, you must look beyond the way it is printed to the quality of the writing. And the first batch of Fine Boys, I think there was a problem with the press because the pages were falling apart. And I know that is actually one of the scoring things. So the NLG prize is not just a prize for literature, it's a prize for how a book looks.
So they judge books based on the cover?
They judge books based on the cover, yes. Which is now that you say it, makes it more ridiculous. So maybe when they watch this, they will understand how silly it is.
Do you think we're obsessed with prizes in Nigeria?
Not really. Prizes are a marketing tool. Fine Boys was successful without even being longlisted for anything. It's been taught in about 4 Nigerian universities. And
Which universities?
I know Abraka, the Delta State University in Abraka, has been taught in Edo State University. And I know that it's been taught in the University of Benin. Yeah,
Okay.
so, yeah. And Port Harcourt too. So it's been taught for literature students.
Did you have to join any fraternity in university before you wrote the book?
To get it published or to write the book?
No, to write the book.
No. You know, I wrote it in retrospect. So if I had known, maybe I would have gone
And
into
you
that
haven't received any
investigate.
email from any of the courts to say, hey, why did you write about us? Are you a member? No?
No, it doesn't work like my own perception is that these things are more, like I've always said, it's one of the things that I truly believe. I really truly believe in is that secrecy is kept passively most times.
No, but now...
if there's a lack of interest in what you do, nobody's really interested. Nobody comes to break
No,
the
but
secret.
now most of the fraternities are tired of being secretive about their affairs.
Yes.
So they're all organizing conventions, like the New Black Movement of Africa. They organize a convention that is still happening till tomorrow in Calabar, and they tried to get me to attend the convention, but because I'm busy.
The New Black Movement is the Black Axe.
The Black Axe, yeah.
That's what they were called in school.
Yeah.
They changed their name in the 90s to the Neo-Black Movement.
Yeah, New Black Movement.
Okay.
So they're tired of being secretive about their affairs. So I'm thinking, do you have any affiliation with any of these courts? Have they invited you to come and speak at their meetings or conventions? Because this book is a very important book on what they represent.
It's a very important book about the history of how they came to be. And it's not so much as, nobody has asked me to come and speak. I'm too much of a wimp to even look into what
You wouldn't want to go?
No, if I'm asked to come and speak, and I know that it's just to talk about my own experience as a child and as a child in university and about how not to be what they became in the 90s. Because you have to understand that it was bad.
Okay, but now...
Because I think part of the problem also comes from the name secret cults.
Exactly.
Call gangs what they are. They became gangs.
But in American universities, you have fraternities. They have buildings on the campuses.
Yes, exactly.
But in Nigerian universities, they're not allowed.
In Nigerian universities, they devolved into becoming gangs. Now it's a chicken or egg situation, and because we tend to sensationalize things that are esoteric. And because of our own religiosity and this new Americanized Pentecostalism, secret cult, they take blood oaths. We are closer to our roots in a way, so it's easy to just devolve into this.
They don't take blood oaths?
Blood oaths for what? For what reason? Hazing, typical American hazing. What is American hazing? American university hazing.
No, but I joined Black House.
I know what I mean is that
I joined Black House in university.
I know. What I mean is that me and you. Because I've known him since before he grew the beard. Me and you,
and this was slightly after you left us in UNN when you came to visit us.
I came to visit and you were clean shaven.
Exactly. But I went, people say, like in your book, people are pressured into joining courts.
Yes.
But I went to them myself.
You joined after we met?
Yes, I went to them myself.
Before you read Fine Boys?
Before even Fine Boy was even published anywhere.
So it wasn't my fault?
No, it wasn't your fault at all. But the thing I'm saying is, they have tried to connect with me. They say, Wole Soyinka started Pirates Confraternity. The members are happy with him. They all flock around him. And so they want Onyeka Nwelue to come and speak at their convention and tell them that you can still be a member of New Black Movement and still focus on what you want to do in life. So when I joined, nobody pressured me. Nobody at all.
Why did you join?
I joined because I had so much interest in it.
Were you researching a book?
Yes, I was. I was going to write a book, Orchard of Memories. But then, when Fine Boys came out, I thought you had beaten me. No, for real. I thought, hey, this man had... why did this guy write? That was actually what I told Eromo.
Okay.
I said, hi.
No, but my book is sold from the outside.
It is.
Yes.
It is, yeah. But what I'm saying is, nobody has written about the experiences.
Yes.
Nobody has written about...
Nobody has written in a non-sensational way. Because people tried to engage this story before, but it was
Nollywood
silly.
has tried to make
Even
them
books
look,
have tried to. They were silly. That's the point I'm coming from. Because I know that we both ascribe to a philosophy that is close to each other. Only I'm less militant than you about religiosity. But we both ascribe to that kind of lack of belief, an inability to just believe in these things.
But in your own perspective, do you think it's wrong to join a fraternity in a university? I don't call them secret society.
For me, I think it's wrong to be pushed into anything.
No, nobody pushed me.
I know that's you. That's you, and you're my crazy friend. So I've also known that I wouldn't have, because I'm really, really at the fear well.
Because I found them very interesting.
Exactly. But for me, at the time I grew up, at the time I was in school, it had stopped being, how would you say this? It had stopped being the thing to do by the time I was in school. And you have to understand that associations, unions, and by reference, confraternities and fraternities tend to switch the way they work. So a generation after it is founded, when it is for love and for anger and for fighting against the people and fighting against the power, by the next generation, if you don't pay attention to the founding principles, it is taken over by the people who would never have joined in the first place. It's a typical example of, like, there's a joke I always crack about the American founding fathers, that to present-day Republicans, people like John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, will be called communists. Because for their time, they were radical. They formed a country based on a book, the Enlightenment of the Thomas Paine book. But you understand where I'm coming from. So like the confraternities, no, this is really important. So like the confraternities now, you have people forming them because they were lecturers were busy bullying female students, and they were fight the power, and they were radicals and were different. By the time I went to school, it had become conformist to join the confraternities, and the non-conformists were now no longer in school. But if you notice, there's one thing I do in the book where the so-called friendships that these people who will never join the confraternity, who are geeks, who are nerds, who are just rebels, they actually, by definition, form their own confraternity without knowing it. They have rules. You don't break the rules. You don't become a secret. You don't go and join. And by definition, they've already formed a gang without knowing that they have. By declaring that they will never be a gang, they formed a gang.
Well, this is very funny that no member of Buccaneer has actually contacted you to say, hey, why did you write about us? You didn't join us, because they are known as the Fine Boys.
Yeah, so I didn't even know. Thank you for letting me know that one. I thought everybody was just Fine Boys. So we learn every day. In Benin, in Benin, everybody was a fine boy.
No, there is a particular group called Fine Boys. Okay, so they know themselves. See? Buccaneers.
See? So we learn every day.
So now it's very interesting to discuss this in Nigerian universities, because in American universities you have these fraternities with buildings on the campuses. Yeah. They are legally recognized by the universities.
Yeah, and they apply for houses. They're given a house, and that becomes their dormitory.
Exactly. Yes. So, what is your opinion about legalizing these institutions?
I'm all for it.
You're up for it?
Yeah, legalize them. Just recognize them and let them come out of the shadows. Because the problem is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay. So you have the violence, and it becomes self-fulfilling. And you don't understand. And the sensationalization hides people.
You think if they have a building, they won't be violent?
And if you individualize punishment.
Interesting.
If somebody messes up, expel the person. Don't expel the group.
Exactly.
Expel the person.
Exactly.
But you know the danger? Bad people will always find a way. So even if you legalize Black Axe, Buccaneer, Eye, and the rest, a new group will call themselves the New Eye Movement and go on the ground.
Which one is Eye?
Eye is the bird. It's mostly found in southwestern schools.
We'll talk about... We're done talking about the...
No problem.
The cultist.
Thank you.
We're going on break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. Okay, we're going to a little bit move from Fine Boys to St. Patrick, back to St. Patrick. It's difficult to... It's a very difficult book. Because when you're reading it, you're imagining a lot of things. Yes. Now, I want to know why this book got published. Did you sleep with anybody to get it published?
No, and this it was. I think it was just pure luck. You know, it's a long story, as most of my stories are. So I started writing the book in 2005, 2006. Oh, yeah. That was the first sentence I ever put to paper. Is the first sentence.
Did you have any relationship with anybody at Kachifo?
Nope. No. All I did was I went halfway through writing the book. I was wondering why most of my text was shit.
Okay.
We're allowed to say shit, aren't we? So, yeah. Good. And I said, okay, what were other people doing? So I traveled to Lagos. This was in 2005, and I'd gone shopping to just see what was out there, what people were writing. I just said, I'm going to buy Nigerian books. And I grew up from those people who read mostly the Grishams, Crichton, Ludlum, Ben Bova, Isaac Asimov. And I bought Popular Hibiscus, bought Everything Good Will Come, and bought one other book, Treasures of the Gods by Odili. I was just picking any book that had a Nigerian name on it. And I started Popular Hibiscus. Read it all through the night, read it on the bus back to Warri the next day. Basically lost about 14 hours of sleep because of that book. And I got back with this idea that, okay, my generation have been giving...
And you hadn't met your mom and dad?
I hadn't met anybody, no. I just got this idea that, we've been given permission to speak.
Okay.
Because before then, contemporary fiction was mostly... the books you read that were contemporary Nigerian fiction were written 30 years before in the 60s. And they were about stories that occurred when people wore loincloths in the bush.
Are you talking about Things Fall Apart? Etc.
And there was a certain weight associated with that kind of fiction. It had to be serious. That was what was perceived. I was kind of wrong, because going back now that I've become more knowledgeable, I knew there were people writing witty stories, there were people writing science fiction, but nobody just heard, because your first experience with Nigerian fiction was school. So when I read Popular Hibiscus, I read, okay, my stories that I feel are banal are actually important. My experiences...
You had written this book then?
I had written half of it. That's the story never learned. Don't worry, to get there. So I came back, destroyed the entire first draft, which was halfway through, because I found out that I was really writing nonsense, and I started again. And halfway through, I copied the address. The inside page now, you just say telephone number and an address published by published by Kachivo Limited under its Farafina imprint. And I sent an email with a query letter in the body of the email and a sample of the writing. Then I called the number. So I sent an email about a month ago. I haven't heard. Then about a week or two later, I received a phone call. I was walking back to the clinic where I was practicing medicine at the time. And I got a phone call, and the person said, "Hello, is this Dr. Eghosa Imasuen?" I said, "Yes, it is." "Okay, my name is Mukhtar Bakari." I said, "Okay." He said, "I'm the managing director at Farafina." I dobaled on the road. I said, how are you, sir? So, and he said, I like your writing. I really like your writing. Can we take a meeting? That was a long and short. It was longer than that. So I said, cool. I said, where are you? I said, I'm in Warri. Oh. I said, of course I can come. That's not a problem. Lagos is not far. I met him in 2006 for the first time. During the prior phone call, he said something that he doesn't remember saying. And he said it was a typical Nigerian sentence. "Oh boy, you can write, oh." By then I was already saying, okay, this is all like this, but let me just go back to practicing. And that sentence carried me through finishing to St. Patrick, carried me through the next novel, and has carried me, and basically took me out of medicine and into publishing now.
So do you still practice as a doctor?
Family and friends. I still pay my practicing license, because the day you miss it, you get a double penalty for not paying it. So I still pay my practicing license.
On what basis do you pay that?
I'm practicing. I'm a doctor now.
No, but
I went to the school. It was 8 years.
Okay. Do you? I normally address people. By their names.
Yes.
And I don't call you Dr. Eghosa.
You should.
I should. Why?
It was 8 years of practice, and I practiced as a doctor.
So you need a title.
I want the title. But actually, no. But I never really take this thing seriously. It was just it's one of those jokes where it breaks the ice. When you say, "Mr. Master," I said, "No, 8 years. 8 years. I didn't fail a class. 2 years because of strikes and." So it was.
Were you forced into medical school? Because were you forced into medical school by anybody?
No. It was the only course that was available for somebody who was good at science but hated math. So I think that was just it. Did
this in any way inspire to St. Patrick as an alternate fiction?
No. That was from my reading. That was from the kind of books I was exposed to as a child and a young person. Science fiction, alternate history, fantasy, and of course the television shows that I watched.
You were confident it was going to work for Nigeria?
It was also a short course. So it's a coming together of many things. I was comfortable with that kind of writing, counterfactual history, playing with time and everything. And I wanted to write a police procedural based in Nigeria, and I couldn't get it done.
Okay.
And because the police procedural in Nigeria is that we're investigating them while somebody is at the back end getting flogged. So how did the police procedures that I really liked, how did I interpret it for Nigeria? I said, okay, just shift the Nigerian timeline to a time when these things actually happen. How do you explain it to the reader? And that was what I did.
Sorry, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more on everything you've written and more about your private life.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Onyeka Nwelue show. We still have in the studio Mr. Eghosa Imasuen. And now I want to discuss something very important to me. Olusegun Obasanjo's last book was published by you.
By Kachifo Limited.
By Kachifo Limited. But
I was running Kachifo Limited.
Yeah, you were running it. And which we didn't talk about earlier. But then there is I once interviewed Onyeka in India about Obasanjo. And he said something like, Obasanjo is a hypocrite. Don't talk about him. Something like that. Now, you're a writer who apparently you respect Onyeka.
Yes.
And you published Obasanjo's book. How did that book get into your hand?
I was running the preeminent independent publishing house in Nigeria that offers publishing services under its prestige imprint. And we were approached in mid-2014.
Who approached you?
Obasanjo's people.
How did Obasanjo's people?
And they just came and they were looking for a publisher.
It wasn't him.
His people, him is the same thing.
No, I mean, did he write you? Did he contact you?
No, we were called for a meeting. They were looking for publishers for his memoirs, which he had been writing, and we went and had a meeting.
Who wrote the memoir?
He did.
Obasanjo wrote
That is the funny thing. Because you know why? Because he plays the buffoon so well.
How did he write it?
People underestimate him. He writes longhand. And the book's length, some of it is attributable to, instead of footnoting certain documents, he just reproduced the documents in full in certain places, especially in volume 2. You have to understand that this guy was library prefect in secondary school.
Really? What secondary school?
Baptist Boys High School, I think. And you have to BBHS, I think. And you have to understand that who are the people that become library prefects in school, in secondary school.
But he doesn't know when he was born.
People.
He doesn't know when he was born.
No, he doesn't know when he was born. Yeah, that's not his fault.
Because when I read the book, he said he was born on a market day.
Yeah, that's all his mom told him. That was born on a market day.
So why does he celebrate a birthday?
He picked a date. He picked a date. He picked March the 5th, 1935 or something.
That's not fraudulent?
No, it says that he picked a date. He had to pick it because he didn't know. But he kind of guessed that this was his age.
That's not fraudulent?
No, because fraud was not the idea behind it.
So I can decide to pick a date?
No, you know your birthday.
No, if I'm running for a political position...
You know your birthday.
I don't know now.
No, you do.
No, I don't. No.
Then if you don't, then you pick a day. Then you pick a day.
So I can now use it.
Yeah, you were born on a Unkwo. Then you pick a day, yeah. That's it. It was a time before birth certificates, at least in his community. So you understand. So, and he's never hidden it. And he still says that.
What is your relationship with him?
It's cordial.
Very cordial.
Yes, it's cordial.
Are you thinking of running for any political position in Nigeria?
I can't.
Because you have a godfather already.
No, says no. I can't. I speak only one language.
What language is that?
English. And Pidgin.
Yeah, so you don't speak one language?
2 languages, yes. But I don't speak, apart from Pidgin English.
What is your original language? What is
English.
It called?
English. Oh, you mean my first language?
Yeah.
Or
your father's language?
My father's, that's my ethnic group.
Yeah.
Bini.
Why don't you speak that?
I grew up in Warri. And I don't speak Bini in Warri.
Yeah, but you speak English, which came from England.
And Pidgin English, which came from Warri.
Interesting. Oh, Pidgin English came from Warri.
Yeah, we are going into spaces where we'll be here for the next 2 hours. But you understand what I mean? It's one of those
I don't understand.
Okay, see.
Yeah.
I come from a bilingual family. My mom is Ishekiri, my dad is Benin.
Okay.
My dad speaks Bini, but grew up in Sapele, so he speaks Benin really not too well. My mom is Ishekiri, but grew up in Warri. My mom doesn't speak Ishekiri. She speaks Urobo and Igbo because she grew up in Aba also. In the home, only English was spoken. The nannies spoke Pidgin. So we learned Pidgin and English. And Warri is a town where there's an amalgam of languages. So basically the lingua franca, the market language in Warri is what? Is Pidgin English. And that's the language you learn. But Pidgin English is not recognized as a Nigerian language in Nigeria. So you cannot go into a political space and have meetings quiet meetings with people who will help you and be speaking English to
How
them.
much did you make from Obasanjo's My Watch?
How much did the company make?
You.
No, it doesn't mean I was any salary now.
How much salary did you
No,
make?
but you have to understand that one of the problems we had with My Watch was that it wasn't actually as happy as most people thought it was. Because after the first copies came out, the advanced copies came out, the rest of the books were seized by a court order because of the content. And they were seized for 6 months until after the elections. Until after the handover, we couldn't get those books out. And we were also asked to pay a large amount of demurrage. And pirated copies came out by the time we got the books out. So we're competing with
I saw a video at a book launch. You were there in the video. You were like Obasanjo's right-hand man. So and I said to myself...
I was the publisher.
I said to myself, my doctor has made it.
Hey, he has hammered.
Yes. No, so I'm thinking, did anything change from when you published these two books and when you published Obasanjo's book?
No, I'd become a publisher. I wasn't practicing medicine daily.
But did you make a lot of money?
No,
it's very important.
No. It wasn't that. It wasn't like that at all. It was the job.
No, nothing changed.
Nothing. I just got older. I grew a beard. Like you.
No, that's not the issue. The issue I'm talking about is the money part.
You know, I'm answering you and I'm not answering you. Nothing changed, Onyeka. But seriously, but no.
You sold because a lot. I mean, I bought the book.
Thank you so much.
I bought the book.
Yes, but many people bought pirated copies for a long time. People were looking for
even
the book.
The pirated copies were still expensive on the streets. They were about 5K.
Yes, now, but the original copy was about 25.
You see.
You get.
So, what is your opinion about pirated copies of books? Do they popularize books and make the writer...
It's the other way around. Not everybody becomes pirated. So piracy is kind of a very, very awkward form of praise that you don't want.
Okay.
So like you get young writers coming that I want to use the publisher, but I don't want to be pirated. I'm like, you wish you would be. But mostly in Nigeria, piracy is not so much about the money that they make from selling the books at the production end.
Somehow, did you get in touch with these pirates?
I've been in touch with them before for earlier books. For like one of our authors, when I was at Farafina, Chimamanda Adichie is the most pirated contemporary writer of fiction. And we had meetings with them, telling them to stop. Because you have to understand that piracy is mostly...
Did you meet them one-on-one?
They don't hide, though.
Yeah, because I've been trying to meet them.
Go to their Juggler book market. The book association, go there, you'll meet people there.
So why do you think it's wrong for them to popularize a book?
They don't popularize it, they steal. You have to understand what they do. They are stealing. It is so painful. You won't understand. So if you spend, let's say you spend 5 million to do a 3,000 copy print run, expecting to sell for maybe 7 or 10, make a small margin, pay royalties to the author. The book now really makes it. The book is now in that space where it is needed. You have people who are going to go and make their own copies to sell on this side. Now, you know the problem? They still own the network because there are two things happening now. Production has not yet jammed into distribution because those networks died in the 80s.
Where do you think they print?
They print abroad, always.
Oh, the pirates print
yes,
abroad?
Now you can't print in Nigeria and make it now. Books are too expensive to print here. They print abroad. And you have to understand that books have no import duty. So piracy, how do they now pay? Because Nigeria is one of the most difficult countries to repatriate money from, legally. Really difficult. How do they pay? The problem is that they are trying to bring money into Nigeria.
So as a publisher, how do you handle piracy? I mean, there are copies of almost all the books
that I've worked on.
On the streets.
No, it's one of those battles where, like I was saying over the Obasanjo books, where the pirated copies came out because of the seized our books, and you're anticipating that if a book is going to be popular, people will jump on the bandwagon and print their own copies to sell. And initially, I tried to compete with them. There were many ideas when I took over running Kachif. One of the ideas was to put a stamp on the book, a hologram stamp on the book, 3D hologram stamp on the book, saying that this is the original version. But it didn't work. It wouldn't work. Why wouldn't it work? Because that works for Food and Drug Administration. Because in food and drug counterfeiting, who is your greatest ally? The consumer. Yeah. In books and film, we all know who our greatest enemy is. It's the consumer. They just want something cheap and accessible.
Well, we all blame it on the economy.
Yes, we all blame it on the economy, yes. But even then, books and piracy, unlike film, where it's kind of been curtailed, at least for local film, the local industry has reformed the old distribution network with the new pirates who entered into that space. So there's a lot of free money that is now controlled and channeled into film distribution and is getting to the copyright holders. For books come in a different way. Books are not passive entertainment. Somebody has to make an investment in reading a book and time. One. Then secondly...
No, but now people are buying Chimamanda's book based on the fact that it's trendy.
Yes, but they're at least reading. I'm saying reading is not the same thing as listening passively to entertainment.
Do you think they read them?
Yes, they do. They do. It's not just for your shelf. Okay, some for your shelf to make your shelf look pretty.
Yeah.
But people also read. One day, one of the children in that house will pick up the book and read and invest time. But for book piracy, what you find out, it wasn't so much as cost, because by the time I started publishing, because Chimamanda was one of my authors, and she's the most pirated fiction writer in Nigeria at the time. Yes. Okay. And so after we had our first meetings with the Book Association and trying to tell them to stop talking to the pirates or to stop pirating themselves, which they denied that they did, but I still suspected that they do, we made a cheaper version of all our novels. We'd reduced the dimensions, made it cheaper, and tried to flood the market with cheap books. And what happened next was that a pirated version came out that took our new design of the new covers and embossed it and did spot UV, made it shiny, made it larger, used higher quality paper, was selling it for twice the price. And the rumor in the market was that the original, ours, was now the pirated one. And so what about costs? And the myth of the guy with his stencil in Araria Market or in Onisha, printing out the book and stapling, that is old. That's not what's happening now. The book piracy is money laundering. The books are being pirated outside. Oh,
okay, now.
And they're being brought into the country by people who need to bring money into the country. That's what's happening.
Now, I want to know the name of the publishing house you set up.
Okay.
And what writers you have on your roster already.
Or coming forward or whatever. No, what I finally did was, it was basically all the concerns I've talked about over the past several minutes. Things about logistics, things about how to engage.
Why did you leave Kachifo Limited?
I just wanted to move on. I had several ideas, and they were not going to work with where I was at the time. And Kachifo wanted to go a kind of a different direction, and I had certain ideas of where to
So, what is this publishing house called?
Narrative Landscape Press.
What?
Narrative Landscape Press.
Isn't that long?
Yes, so our email address is a problem. But but for us it was narrativelandscape.com, and the idea was to provide publishing services to independent publishers and to writers. That's the primary idea.
Is it traditional publishing?
No, it's publishing services. So we do print logistics. We recently handled the second print run for 2016 for an independent publishing house, Paresha. And we also do...
you work with Paresha?
Yes. And we've recently been engaged by the Obasanjo Presidential Library to handle their...
You're still running with him?
Yeah, to handle their...
that relationship
to handle their, what they call, their publishing division.
What is your relationship with Obasanjo? What is it like? Is it personal?
It's friendly, yes, it's personal.
Do you talk to him directly?
Yes.
He's a man I admire.
It's a very witty man. Then
I admire Wole Soyinka, which is very ironical. So these two people, do you have any relationship with Wole Soyinka?
No. But I think he's a lovely gentleman. I think he's done great things. My relationship with Obasanjo is not literary or...
So now, back to the language thing. You say you won't run for any political position because you speak only one language.
Yes. Now, because in Nigeria, if you don't speak an indigenous language, you can't win an election.
But you have a godfather, Obasanjo.
No, I don't have a godfather.
Let's assume you have.
What did they do you? I don't have a godfather.
Let's assume you have a godfather like Obasanjo.
Okay, let's assume you have one. Yes.
So you think you can win?
No, you can't win.
Why not? It's Obasanjo.
It doesn't matter. There are choices to be made. And this is the truth about
Have you spoken to him about this?
No, I'm not really interested in...
Oh, you're not interested
No, not really.
You're only interested in publishing books?
No, I'm only interested in living my life, really, to the best of my ability.
Publishing books to be pirated by people.
That's the painful part. You know, that's the painful thing.
But you don't think you need to join the system to make policies?
Because I've become friends with an ex-president.
No, because you're a smart person.
Yes.
And if you join the National Assembly...
No, but the thing, let me explain where I'm coming from. So I'm what I am.
Have you thought about this?
Let me land. I'm the product of my experiences and what I am. So I'm a young, not too young, I was 41. I'm 41. I was 41 yesterday, so I'm a young...
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I'm a young Nigerian doctor who left medicine to become a writer, who ended up becoming a publisher, who comes from a banking family, who owns a mortgage bank, etc., etc. I know book well.
I like that.
But I don't speak my language. I don't speak my mother's language. I speak English and Pidgin. I am scarred. Those are the, if you're doing a SWOT analysis, those are the threats and the weaknesses. What I can be, and if it ever comes up, I will be glad to serve my country, is an appointee. But to stand in front of my people, to stand for election, where there's somebody who has all my attributes and can speak to them, I will lose. I'm not unique. There are plenty of people like me.
This is modesty and humility?
It is truth. You know, so I'm self-aware of those things.
No, okay. Before we round up on the show, I would like to know what you think about the fact that in Nollywood they complain about people trying to take advantage of people to give them roles.
Okay.
Do you think in the publishing industry
it happens?
If a writer writes a book and he's sexually attractive, you can have sex with this writer
to publish their book.
Yeah. Do you think you can do that yourself?
No, the story is too long term. It won't work. It's just talent. It can't work now. Can it work? It's not acting now. You're not coming to sit down and read somebody else's script. You're going to sit down and write it. If it's bad, it's your money they're going to put on the line.
Why do you writers sound the same? Because the ones I talked to last time.
Because it's a comparison that doesn't really exist beyond the superficial. It can't happen.
You see somebody who is very fine, you say, oh really, I want to publish this person, but I really have to.
Before I publish the person will take their book elsewhere. It's a different place. It's a different space.
Okay, what if the person offers?
I know the answer you again. It's a different space. It doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It's not. I can't even see it happening. I don't know where to come from because you are risking your own money to get into somebody's pants. You're still going to have to publish the person's book. Because if it's quid pro quo, if you get this, you're going to do this. If the book is not good and the book hits the market, you lose. You the producer's analog in terms of publishing, which is the publisher.
Do you think people are buying Chimamanda's book because she's very beautiful?
No, because she's a brilliant writer.
Okay, how do you assess the Nigerian reading culture, the reading culture?
It's not that Nigerians don't read, it's what they read. I think people are even reading more because of social media. Because what I mean by social media is that, and because of mobile phones, you engage a mobile phone not by speaking now, you engage a mobile phone by reading. You read text, you read things like that. In my time, when we were younger, you answered the phone. Now you have to be literate to use a phone. So people are reading, but what are they reading? And also, there's also the duty of what are we writing? Are we writing to their truths? So like when I was talking about when I was younger and the idea that and I couldn't find books that spoke to me. It's also that duty that writers have to write to their audience. So you see everybody wants to write the next important book, the idea about literary prizes. But people are forgetting that there are so many stories around you. There are stories of a masseuse who offers happy endings. There are stories of the young man who is going to wash a car and get 2,000 naira, 1,000 naira for marijuana, 500 naira for studio time, 500 naira to eat. There are stories around. There are people who are surviving. Instead, everybody wants to tell the next loincloth story about a man fighting for the independence of his tribe. Move on. Importance is local. Local is universal.
Do you think
tell your stories, and the audience will read. One. That's the only thing that you can do.
Do you think it is very important for writers to struggle to have their books translated onto the screen?
It's different because it depends on what the industry does. So all stories have been told. So the idea about I can tell you that for a fact that if you look at different scripts, Popular Hibiscus has been done maybe 50 times. But in Nigerian films do not need the name Popular Hibiscus on it. So you tell the story of an abusive father in a family. Why do you need to adapt and go and spend money on the name? Call it on that. They call it Red Izora. The point I'm making is that translating novels on the page to script for filmmaking is both one, a literary decision and an artistic decision, and also a marketing decision. A book has been popular. A film about a story of an abusive father who is highly religious and who damages his family, told from the point of view of the daughter, titled Popular Hibiscus, will sell more than one titled A Dark Home. Both are the same stories. All stories have been told. So it's a marketing decision. And the Nigerian film industry doesn't need to spend money on marketing.
Hopefully we get...
They don't need to spend money on that type of marketing. They make money without it. They don't need to jump above the fray by coming to the novelist to collect their stories to tell.
Okay, with your relationship with Wole Soyinka, there is a cake which is done on Wole Soyinka. Your relationship with Obasanjo, sorry. Are we going to ever have any film on Obasanjo's life, childhood, adulthood, anything? Are we ever going to have a film on him?
I don't know. I'm not really engaged in that. I've never discussed that part with him.
Why not?
Because I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't really know. I've not heard the conversation.
No, but you were like his marketing strategist.
No, I wasn't. I published a book.
Yeah, but you made Obasanjo become a household name even after
I did it. Before it got published, it was...
No, because every video...
Before it got published, it was popular.
No, he was popular, a household
name. It is one video. One video, one event.
Channel TV, every AIT.
The same event.
You were everywhere like his bodyguard.
I was the publisher.
Yeah, but publishers are not bodyguards.
No, I wasn't bodyguarding him. I was his publisher. So we're having the conversation. It was video. That was all.
That was very interesting for me because...
So at the time of presenting the book, it was me, the publisher, presenting the book to the public and presenting my author. That was just
Imagine that... Have you sat down to think about this that, oh, I am the publisher of...
The former president of the country.
Not even former presidents.
It's cool. It's cool, isn't it?
No, but it's a CV that speaks volume.
Yes, it's cool.
So I think... it's very interesting that we've had you on this show, and I'm really it
was fun, wasn't it?
I'm happy to have had this conversation with you.
Thank you so much.
It's one of those things that I want to continue. I would like to have Obasanjo on my show if you can make it happen anyway.
It can happen.
It can happen?
Yes, it can.
That would be glorious.
There are several books coming out, so maybe we'll be glad to come.
No, if you can talk to him for me, I'll be very, very grateful.
No problem.
Books will always be published. Books will always be read. Thank you so much for coming on my show. Thank you. See you next time.